Every empire has its Cleopatra. Ours just wears camouflage. They say Cleopatra bathed in milk, but she ruled in blood. She didn't conquer with armies. She conquered with eyes that knew how to bend empires. While men sharpened swords, she sharpened silence. While kings dreamed of territory, she dreamed of how to make a king forget his. Alexander was no fool, a man of vision, empire, and hunger. But even the sharpest blade dulls when stroked by admiration. Cleopatra offered him not power, but a mirror. And what destroys a man faster than the illusion of being seen, desired, understood? History remembers her as beauty, but beauty was just her camouflage. The real weapon was influence. Empires didn't crumble because she seduced their kings. They crumbled because she convinced their kings that surrender was love. And that's the oldest war strategy of all time. If you can't defeat the man, disarm his will to fight. We like to believe we've evolved since then, that we're smarter, now stronger, immune to the soft poison of persuasion. But the truth? Cleopatra never died. She just changed form. She became the system, the one that tells you to fight, work, and bleed for illusions wrapped in virtue. They call it patriotism, family, honor, different words, same perfume. You see her everywhere now, not draped in gold, but in symbols. Her eyes glow through recruitment ads. Her whispers echo in political speeches. Her silhouette hides behind every flag that flutters with a promise of meaning. She doesn't need a throne anymore, she has media. And she still knows how to whisper the same old words. Be a man. Protect her. Prove yourself. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. Men don't go to war because they love killing. They go because they're addicted to meaning. Because the world told them that pain earns respect and sacrifice earns love. Tell a man he's fighting for resources and he hesitates. Tell him he's fighting for her and he'll charge into fire smiling. It's not courage, it's hypnosis. It's Cleopatra with a new face. The system learned that if you can tie a man's worth to his service, you don't need chains, just a story. And that story begins young. Every boy is told, be strong, be useful, be the protector. But no one tells him that protectors are only powerful when they know who they're protecting and why. You think you fight for freedom? But whose freedom? You think you fight for peace? Then why does peace always demand more blood? You think you fight for your family? Then why do so many families end up burying their protectors? It's a trick as old as seduction itself. Give a man a noble lie, and he'll die for it. Give him a goddess, and he'll kneel before his own destruction. That's how empires feed not on love, but on loyalty disguised as it. Every generation of men believes they're the last to fall for the trick. Yet every generation ends up bleeding for the same invisible queen. Look closer at the flags, the hymns, the slogans. They aren't calling to your logic, they're calling to your instinct. To that ancient hunger to be the hero, the protector, the man who mattered. And that's the brilliance of it. The system doesn't enslave you by force. It seduces you with purpose. You think you're defending your kingdom, but what if you're just defending the system that profits from your obedience? What if every war, every duty, every honor is just another Cleopatra whispering, do it for me? And the saddest part, she never has to lift a sword because men still line up to offer their necks smiling, proud, thinking it's valor. Cleopatra didn't conquer Alexander's armies. She conquered his certainty. Today, the same spell conquers millions of men, not in battlefields, but in belief. They scroll through propaganda, they chant slogans, they salute symbols, and they think they're free because they chose their chains. So tell me, when you see the flag waving, when you hear the anthems swell, when you feel that rush in your chest, is that patriotism or possession? Is that pride or programming? What if the war you fight isn't against the enemy in front of you, but the idea that someone else deserves your sacrifice? Maybe Cleopatra never died. Maybe she just moved her palace into the human mind. Because the modern empire doesn't need queens or crowns. It just needs men too proud to question what they're fighting for. The serpent still whispers, only now she wears camouflage. And the men who hear her don't march with spears anymore. They march with resume, rifles, and reasonless pride, each believing he's chosen when he's only been chosen for something. They call it duty, career, sacrifice, service. But peel back the medals and the slogans, and you'll find the same altar Cleopatra built, polished with the sweat of men who thought obedience was honor. The system no longer needs a battlefield. It builds them everywhere. In offices that call themselves missions, in companies that call themselves families, in governments that call obedience patriotism. Everywhere, the same story. Give us your time, your youth, your life, and we'll give you meaning. It's the same spell, just branded differently. They tell you you're building something greater than yourself. But greater for who? The men who die in wars don't get the contracts. The workers who grind to exhaustion don't get the profits. The fathers who sacrifice everything for stability often die, forgotten their families surviving off myths of their greatness. And yet, the illusion endures, because every system knows one truth. If you can make a man proud of his cage, he'll never try to escape it. Every generation gets its own version of the uniform. The soldier's armor became the suit. The sword became the laptop. The anthem became the company mission statement. And the medals, likes, paychecks, promotions, tiny dopamine rewards that mimic glory. You don't need a general shouting orders anymore. You just need an algorithm whispering validation. Men used to die on battlefields for kings. Now they die in offices for shareholders. Different flags, same funeral silence. And what do they get in return? A plaque, a folded flag, a slideshow, a round of applause that fades before their blood dries. And a story, the same story told for centuries. He was a good man. He served well, but the truth buried beneath the ceremony is darker. He served because he was conditioned to. He served because the system convinced him that purpose must come from pain. That love must be earned through exhaustion. That worth must be measured by sacrifice. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a man celebrated for restraint? For saying no to manipulation? For refusing to be used? Never. Because disobedience doesn't feed the machine. Only sacrifice does. You're not supposed to ask why the war exists, only whether you're brave enough to join it. You're not supposed to question why your loyalty is demanded, only whether you're man enough to give it. And so, generation after generation, men keep offering themselves to the altar, believing they're building legacy when they're really just building replacements. Walk through a cemetery and read the tombstones. Devoted husband, faithful soldier, loyal servant. All noble, all tragic. Because loyalty without awareness isn't virtue, it's hypnosis. Cleopatra used to make kings kneel for love. Now the system makes men kneel for validation. Same seduction, different perfume. Some will call this cynicism. But tell me, is it cynicism or clarity? Why is a man who dies in war called a hero, but a man who refuses to fight called a coward? Even if his refusal saves his mind, his family, his peace? Because heroes feed the story, and the story feeds the system. A man who sees through the illusion can't be controlled, but a man who needs approval can be guided anywhere, even to his grave, as long as you make him believe he's doing it for love, honor, or the greater good. The house of manufactured heroes isn't a building, it's an idea. A psychological factory that takes raw masculine energy and turns it into serviceable devotion. Some fight wars, some chase careers, some just scroll, convinced their outrage is activism. Each believes he's contributing, but the truth? He's consuming the narrative that consumes him back. Cleopatra didn't need chains, just stories that sounded noble. The system doesn't need cages, just causes that sound righteous. And once a man believes that glory lies in submission, he'll defend his oppressor with pride. So before you salute, before you sign, before you sacrifice, ask yourself, is this purpose or programming? Is this courage or conditioning? Are you building something or being built into something? Because somewhere in the shadows, Cleopatra still smiles. Not at the kings she conquered, but at the men who still haven't realized they're fighting her wars. She smiles at the men who still haven't realized they're fighting her wars. And as they salute, another curtain rises, not of silk this time, but of screens. A new empire has dawned, built not on marble, but on metrics. Welcome to the economy of obedience, where loyalty has become the most profitable resource on earth. They call it progress. But progress for whom? The modern man no longer swings a sword, he swipes a card. He no longer defends a castle, he defends a brand, a belief, a paycheck. He wears no armor, yet he is constantly at war. With debt, with deadlines, with dopamine. He's told he's free, free to choose, free to buy, free to dream. But what is freedom if every choice is pre-selected, every desire pre-installed? They don't need chains anymore, they just need algorithms that know you better than you know yourself. Every morning he wakes up and marches not toward a battlefield, but toward a glowing screen that tells him who to envy, what to fear, and what to want next. His commanders are invisible now. Market trends, social expectations, credit scores. His reward? Validation. A few likes, a bonus, a weekend illusion of peace. He doesn't see that his labor, his lust, and his loneliness have all been monetized. He thinks he's climbing a ladder, but the ladder itself is a treadmill moving only when he runs. And when he stops, the machine stops paying attention. You see, Cleopatra's genius wasn't her beauty, it was her ability to translate desire into obedience. Today, the system does the same through invisible hierarchies. Workplace hierarchies, social hierarchies, romantic hierarchies, each one engineered to make men compete for symbols of worth that vanish the moment they're won. It's why men fight for promotions that destroy their peace. Why they chase women who don't admire them, only their effort. Why they buy status they can't afford, because somewhere deep in the reptilian code of masculinity, the whisper remains, prove yourself, then you'll be loved. They turn the masculine spirit into a subscription. Every month, he pays to belong to gyms, to apps, to ideologies, to lifestyles. Every dollar buys a momentary illusion of importance. But no matter how much he pays, the balance never clears. Because the system isn't selling freedom, it's selling the feeling of chasing it. That's the secret economy obedience disguised as aspiration. The more he strives, the more predictable he becomes. The more predictable, the easier to control. And so the puppet strings tighten, woven not from rope, but from recognition. In ancient times, kings ruled through fear. Today, corporations rule through comfort. The slave who's fed well never questions his collar. He scrolls, he laughs, he buys, and calls it living. They don't censor his voice. They drown it in noise. They don't confiscate his time. They monetize his attention. He thinks he's choosing his battles, but every battle was designed to drain him. Politics, trends, outrage, all cheap theaters to keep his spirit busy while his will is quietly harvested. Ask yourself, who benefits from your exhaustion? Who profits from your endless need to prove yourself? Who gains when men chase illusions instead of introspection? They call it an economy, but it's really a religion, a faith where productivity replaces prayer and exhaustion becomes the new sacrifice. The office is the new temple, the paycheck, the new communion, and every boss, a modern priest absolving your obedience with a smile. Good work, keep it up. And so the modern man becomes his own warden. He polices himself with goals. He disciplines himself with shame. He posts his achievements, hoping someone will say, "You matter." He doesn't realize he's the puppet and the string. Because the greatest trick of power is not to enslave the body. It's to convince the mind that slavery is success. Meanwhile, the true kings, the architects of the illusion, sit unseen behind glass towers, counting the devotion of billions in clicks and contracts. They know the masculine heart better than most men know themselves. They know you'll trade your freedom for the chance to feel needed. They know you'll sacrifice truth for applause. And they know that if they just give you an enemy, any enemy, you'll gladly fight on their behalf. That's why outrage sells, why propaganda works, why the machine never stops humming. Because every war, every election, every social division is a marketplace, and every man who picks a side becomes a customer. So when you boast about fighting the system, make sure you're not buying from its store. When you shout about freedom, make sure it isn't freedom pre-packaged and sold back to you. Because maybe, just maybe, the modern king isn't the ruler on the throne. Maybe he's the man on the screen, too busy chasing meaning to notice his strings. The puppet king isn't evil. He's tired. He's lost in a world that rewards obedience and mocks awareness. He's the man who trades his crown for comfort, who forgets that real power begins where permission ends. And until he wakes up, the economy will keep feeding on his devotion, turning his blood into profit, his dreams into data, and his legacy into content. Because in the end, the system doesn't fear rebellion. It fears awakening. It fears the moment the puppet cuts his own strings and remembers that he was never built to serve, but to see. And once a man truly sees, he can never go back to sleep. Vision is both blessing and curse. It frees you from illusion, but it also strips away the comfort of belonging. That's the price of awakening the loneliness that comes with clarity. The moment you realize the system doesn't imprison you, you imprison yourself every time you confuse obedience with honor. He starts to notice the code beneath the crown. Every title, every reward, every demand for loyalty, all bait. Every leader he once admired now looks like a salesman of servitude. He begins to laugh at the very things that used to intimidate him. Status, validation, hierarchy. He sees that the so-called kings of men are just caretakers of illusions. Men who traded truth for comfort and called it wisdom. And he whispers to himself, not in arrogance, but in relief, let them keep their thrones. I'd rather keep my soul. That's the last rebellion, the quiet refusal to kneel. Not to governments, not to gods, not to the seductive machinery of meaning. To say no, not with violence, but with awareness. Because once a man stops craving recognition, the empire loses its grip. He stops fighting for crowns made of smoke. He stops chasing the applause of the enslaved. He no longer needs to be the hero in anyone's story. He becomes something rarer, an observer who cannot be bought. The world will mock him. They'll call him cold, detached, unambitious. But detachment is not apathy, it's freedom with discipline. It's standing in a burning world and refusing to be consumed by it. He works, but his work no longer defines him. He loves, but love no longer enslaves him. He serves, but service no longer drains him because now it's chosen, not commanded. Every action becomes deliberate. Every breath, an act of rebellion against manipulation. The modern empire has no defense against such a man. You can't guilt him with patriotism. He knows belonging is not obedience. You can't seduce him with status. He's seen what it costs. You can't bribe him with pleasure. He understands the trap of endless reward. He's not anti-system, he simply walks beyond it. He participates without being possessed. He plays the game, but never forgets it's a game. He's free not because he escaped the world, but because he stopped mistaking it for his master. That's when the new masculine archetype is born. Not the warrior who dies for approval, but the sage who lives for truth. He doesn't need to burn kingdoms. He just stops feeding them. He doesn't scream about change. His existence becomes the change. In his stillness, he breaks the rhythm of the machine. And in that pause, others start to question their own sleep. Because awareness is contagious. When one man sees clearly, it threatens the entire illusion. He understands now that the real battlefield isn't political, sexual, or economic. It's spiritual. It's fought between his own awareness and his own conditioning. Cleopatra still whispers, the system still tempts, but now her voice sounds different. Less like command, more like echo. He smiles when he hears it. He's not angry anymore. He doesn't hate her, he thanks her. Because without the serpent, he'd have never learned how to resist the bite. And so he lives quietly, powerful, almost invisible. No followers, no throne, no need to convince anyone of anything. But his presence is felt wherever he goes. He's the man others can't manipulate, can't seduce, can't guilt. The man who belongs to nothing, yet moves through everything with purpose. He has no slogan, no tribe, no approval checklist. Only direction, only awareness, only will. That's what true sovereignty looks like. The ability to say, I choose this not because they told me to, but because I decided it aligns with who I am. He's not waiting for revolution. He is the revolution, quiet, steady, and immune to illusion. And that terrifies those who depend on blind loyalty to survive. Because the awakened man doesn't destroy the empire. He makes it irrelevant. So when the serpent whispers again in ads, in speeches, in soft voices that promise validation, he listens with calm detachment and answers. I see you, I understand your game, but my will is not for sale. And in that moment, every invisible hierarchy trembles. Because one man who owns himself is more dangerous than a million who don't. The last rebellion isn't fought with fire, it's fought with silence. It's the decision to think before obeying, to feel without being owned by feeling, to love without losing the self. That's how the masculine spirit rises again, not through conquest, but through consciousness. So the story comes full circle. Cleopatra still rules, yes, but only over the blind. The rest have opened their eyes. And when she tries to lure them with promises of greatness, they smile, bow politely, and walk away. Because the man who refuses the crown has already found the kingdom within. So now you've seen it, the illusion from every angle. From Cleopatra's palace to the digital throne room, from the soldiers who marched for her smile to the men who now scroll for their validation. The face has changed. The seduction didn't. Every empire mastered the same secret. You don't need to chain a man if you can charm his purpose. And that's why the serpent still whispers not to your body, but to your ego. Because the man who can be flattered can always be controlled. But here's the truth. Most won't say out loud. You were never meant to be obedient. You were meant to be aware, to serve by choice, not by command, to love without worship, to build without being built upon. When you stop mistaking noise for meaning, when you stop needing permission to matter, the illusion collapses. The system loses its favorite slave, the man who still wants to prove he's good enough. So stop asking for crowns. Stop bleeding for symbols that don't bleed for you. Stop confusing exhaustion with virtue. The next war isn't out there. It's in here, in your mind, where obedience was planted as pride. It's a quiet war, fought in moments of decision. Every time you scroll instead of think, every time you obey instead of choose, every time you mistake comfort for peace, you win that war not by shouting, but by seeing, by reclaiming the one resource they can't monetize, your will. Because the moment you own your will, the machine malfunctions. Every ad loses its spell. Every manipulator loses leverage. Every false queen loses her throne. And that's when you begin to live not as servant, not as hero, but as sovereign. So ask yourself tonight, who benefits from your effort? Who profits from your obedience? And what would happen if, just once, you refused the crown they offered and built your own instead? That's the rebellion this channel exists for. To remind men that awareness is the new weapon, discipline is the new luxury, and sovereignty is the new revolution. If this hits you, if it cracks something open, don't just nod. Act. Reflect. Share it with the men who need to remember who they are. And subscribe, not for me, but for the movement we're building here. A generation of men who no longer fight for illusions, but live for truth. Because the serpent still whispers, but now you know her voice. And that means she no longer owns you.